Welcome to the third session of Web Application Security. In this session, I'm going to discuss about injection attack and especially the code injection. Now, in the past two sessions, I have discussed about what is OWASP, what is top 10 list published by OWASP, then some of the security terms I have discussed in the session 2. So these are the security terms that I discussed, which are coming in this session and in the future sessions of this series, right? Now, let us just proceed with this session. Now, injection attack is something which always topped the list of OWASP. Now, OWASP always, publishes different vulnerabilities that are seen as top 10 list, right? Now, injection is something which is always on the top of the list. That means every web application has to ensure that this injection attack is serious and it has to be addressed in the web application security. Now, when we talk about injection, there are multiple varieties of injection attacks that are identified, which I have listed here. Let me quickly go through this list. There are 9 different types. So code injection, CRLF, XSS, email header injection, host header injection, LDAP injection, OS command injection, SQL injection, and XPath injection. You might have come across some of the terms here. I'm going to discuss each of these in a separate session. And in this session, I'm going to discuss about code injection. Let us quickly go through what is code injection. I am just trying to give some background. If you see any web application, right, it's a piece of software. End of the day, this software is written in some of the programming language such as Java, JavaScript, Perl, Python, C, C++, could be anything. Now, this web application software is nothing but end of the day, it's a code, and code that works on some data and produces some output which is used by end users. Now, in case of code injection attack, what happens is a data is replaced by a code. So code is expecting to work on some data. Now code gets a data which is nothing but a code planted by an attacker. Now the output could be entirely unexpected output, and it could be a big attack. It could lead to an attack, right? Now, first of all, it's a server side attack. Now, how this attack happens is like I explained, a data is replaced by a malicious code. Now, when a malicious code is injected into application, this code is interpreted by the this code is interpreted by the backend application in the application context. Now, code always thinks whatever the user supplied input or input that it is expecting is a normal data, but in this case, attacker has implanted, or he has planted a code which has a differential, or which has its own intention of working. Now, code injections are sometimes called as remote code execution, and code injection basically happens when the web application is accepting some user input and uses this user input without validating that, right? So it could be some form data, or it could be some username, password, or whatever. So whenever an application accepts some input and it uses this user supplied input without validation, now such an web application server is a target for code injection attack. So let me talk about one of my experiences. I have used something called Script Engine Manager. So this is in one of my Java application. I used Script Engine Manager. Now, this is to execute any script from Java, right? If you want to execute some script from Java, you can use Script Engine Manager. Now you have to tell what is the type of the script. So to the Script Engine Manager. Now, in my case, I mentioned the script that Script Engine Manager has to run as a JavaScript, and then I was accepting a user input which is in JavaScript format, and I was executing that. My code used to execute the JavaScript and used to give some desired output. Now, this is something which is dangerous, right? Now, as long as it is within a secure perimeter and only secured users are using this and they know how to use it, it is safe. But the moment it goes to the attacker's hand, he can plant any unwanted script or malicious script as an input, and he can cause an attack. So OWASP has there's a page on OWASP which basically talks about what is a code injection that can happen in Java, and that exactly talks about script engine manager, which I was talking in my application that I have used, right? So similarly in PHP there is a function called eval. Now this function is to evaluate the PHP code, and if your site is using, you are evaluating user input, right? Basically eval is a execution I mean piece of code that executes PHP. Now if user or a attacker is able to pass some input that is malicious in nature, then this could lead to an attack. Okay. You might have, I just want to bring in this session. You might have heard of this site. This is a common weakness enumeration site, right? So this basically talks about what are software security weaknesses, and this is irrespective of the programming language. So in this website there are two different, CWE94 is one such an weakness that is marked. It talks about improper control of generation of code, which is a code injection, and there is CWE95, which talks about improper neutralization of directives in dynamically evaluated code. Now if your application, web application, suppose, it's the signature of your web application maps to either CW94 or 95, then your web application is supposed to be a target of code injection. So I sincerely request that please go through these two uh, vulnerabilities or the weaknesses, common weaknesses that are listed here, and it could save you from a code injection attack. Now I have listed the links to them here in the presentation. Okay, so what are the impacts? Now, worst case impact of the code injection attack is something like it could it could lead a way for the attacker into the system in the form of computer worms, or it can lead to installation of some malware. It could cause data loss. It could cause denial of service. When we say denial of service, somebody is trying to your users are trying to access the website, but they are not able to access because your access to your website is blocked in some way, which is nothing but a denial of service. Now how do we prevent such an attack, right? Now there are two things we can do. One is use security tools which basically identify if there is a possibility of such an attack in your website. So basically what I'm trying to say is run your application through some security tools, and they can identify such a vulnerability, or ensure that your web application is evaluating all the input it is accepting, or it's working on. Basically the data it is accepting from any form, right, in any form, from anywhere, is always validated. Do not trust any data unless it is validated. Only then your web application is safe, and it can protect itself against the code injection attack. So for this session, I have used these two references, and in upcoming sessions, I'll be discussing some of the other injection attacks. And in future sessions, I'm going to discuss all the different types of vulnerabilities that are listed in OWASP top 10 list, right? Thank you very much. If you have any questions, suggestions, feedback, please feel free to provide the same. Thank you and good day.